If you run a small business, AI can help you understand your financials faster and help you gain more insights from them. But this is also one of the easiest places to use AI badly. So, say you paste your raw financials into an AI model, and then you say, analyze this, and then treat the answer like it came from a CPA, then you are setting yourself up for problems. So in this video, I wanted to help draw a line on what are some good uses for AI and then what to avoid with it. And then I will also attach some prompts that you can copy and paste and use for your own financials. So over the past couple of months, I have spent a lot of time researching and also thinking about how to effectively use AI in practical ways for small businesses. And financials are one of the highest value areas because the owner often has the reports, but not always the time or the confidence to interpret them. So AI helps bridge that gap. But it should only help as a first pass thinking partner, not as the final authority. You should still think critically about what it is giving you and not always assume it's 100% correct. It can also help you ask better questions, but it should not be the one making the decisions. This matters because if you have a good grasp on your financials, then you understand where you're spending too much money or too less, and then also where your revenue is coming in, whether it's certain products or certain services. So I will go over 6 key points and then also demonstrate each of these as we go through, and some things to keep in mind when you are doing this. So here is a profit and loss statement. It's completely AI generated, so I'm not leaking any confidential information. So we have a street bakery cafe, and then it gives the location, and then entity type, and some other additional sensitive information. And then you have your accounts, cost of goods, and others. So the first thing you want to keep in mind before you actually put this into an AI model is you do not want to keep any of this sensitive information. Whether you delete it completely from your profit and loss, which I'll actually do. And so I'm just going to delete some other details because we do not want to expose this information to the public, and most AI models do. Depending on what tier or policy you are on, it can leak that information. So I ran ahead and removed all the sensitive information while keeping all the data. And you can also de-identify this, so use dummy names or dummy accounts. So we'll just go ahead and save that. So I'm in my AI model. I'm going to go ahead and copy paste my prompt in. So the first thing you can use AI for when it comes to financials is help understand it in plain English. So taking any complex wording, whether it's gross margin or net profit or net income, and translating that into plain English, and then also any trends or things that have changed month over month. So the one that I'm going to be putting into the system is just for the annual, so we won't have anything to look at when it says change compared to the prior period. But the rest of this prompt, we can see what the output is. And this prompt will be available so you can copy and paste. So we'll go ahead and add that. So we have our output. So overall, we do look healthy. We have our in-store, catering, and wholesale. We have our gross margin, which is strong. And then our cost of goods is also under control. And so if you need help explaining any of these, you can just ask. So it tells you it's the cost to make the profit minus the sales. So easily to understand, so if you ever have any terms, but overall it gives you pretty plain English on how you're doing, and then what has changed, which we don't have that data in, but also what looks concerning. And so of course all this will have to be based on your own judgment. It is good at, again, being a first pass partner, but you should be the one critically thinking about this. So for example, if labor is heavy, maybe you hired another employee just because it got really busy, and that's why it looks higher than what it should be. But that's only context you should know. And you could put that context into AI to help walk through your options. So our next thing that you could use AI for is help it to identify patterns or questions that you did not see before. So it's great at finding patterns and things that we might have missed. So I do also have a prompt for this, so I'm just going to copy and paste this in. You will also have access to this prompt as well. So we'll go ahead and see the output. So we have our output. So the first thing you flag is labor is very high, and then you're also profitable at gross level, but losing money overall. So you have a strong gross margin, but still a net loss, which shows the product works, but then it fails at operations. So the operations have to be adjusted and something you have control over. Then another thing that I like about this is it gives you pretty much highlights your biggest chunk of revenue, which is catering. And then we also have debt and other ones. So it's great at finding things that maybe you miss or didn't even think about and just helping you work through those problems. So I'm going to add another file that will actually show year over year so we can get a little bit more out of these prompts. In your case, you might want to do month over month, or depending on your data, do every quarter, and you could do this. So I just uploaded the document, which is a 5-year summary, and then I'm just going to give it the same prompt. So the first one pointed out was profit collapsed while revenue grew. So this is something you might have missed. Hopefully not, but your revenue went from 425K to 707, but then it went down from profit went down from 96 to negative 38K, which means the expansion, you spent too much on the cost of goods or whatever it may be. Overall, I just want to get the point across that it's very easy to determine. Overall, I don't want to get too much into the details. I am a data person, so I sometimes easily do that, but it's great at spotting patterns that you might have missed and just calling out things that you can review yourself. But again, use it as a first pass thinking partner. So the next thing I wanted to go over is it is great at planning scenarios or forecasting for scenarios. So doing like a what if analysis. So say, what if clients dropped by 10%, or what if I removed an extra employee? What would my margin be and also my sales be? What would be my net profit and stuff like that? So we'll go ahead and do the prompt that I have for this, which again, you will have access to. And of course, with any of these prompts, you can change any of the wording or the context to match your situation. So in this prompt, we have to create 3 simple scenarios for the next 90 days. What if revenue dropped down by 10%, but expenses stay flat? What if revenue and expenses followed the current trend? And then what if revenue was up by 10% and payroll was up by 5%? So with the conservative, so overall the loss would widen meaningfully, and then some pressure points that would occur from that and some assumptions. And then we have the base case, which is what would happen if the current trend continues, which is still low negative profit. And then what if you went up by 10% margin, but payroll 5%? So that would show that profits improve slightly, but is still tight. And so you can work through different scenarios to see what would be best for you and kind of plan for the future too. The next key point, AI is great at turning outputs into some kind of checklist or next steps list. So here's the prompt that I will give it. So it will turn this financial review into a 30-minute owner meeting agenda, which includes the 5 highest priority discussion points, the data we need to verify, and then questions for the bookkeeper and the CPA, and decisions we should not make until the numbers are confirmed. But of course, you can change this to something else that might be more for your situation. But you can change this depending on your situation and choose an output that fixes your context better. Just have it come up with certain steps to take or certain ways to directly identify the problem going on in your business. Whether you are spending too much on labor or something else is taking up too much of your expenses, at least in this case. But here's the output that it gave us. So it gives you some recommendations. It's always good at giving you recommendations on what needs to be verified so you can test if what it generated was actually correct. And then it's great at creating questions. And so overall, it gave us a pretty good agenda. So that's another way is after you use your financial review, actually have it create something that you can take action on. So that's some of the great use cases. You can definitely get more experimental with it. Just definitely don't use this as a final advice. And the things that I would avoid, we went over it some as we were going through the examples, but definitely do not put in any sensitive information because once you hit that send button, it is now on an external server that is exposed, and now all your sensitive information is out of your control. But if you de-identify the data, then there's limited issues with that. Also, don't use this as a replacement for a CPA or a bookkeeper because it should not be giving you tax advice and how to properly account things. It can help you along the way. Say you're using QuickBooks, then you can help it explain terms to you, like we went over with the first case, but it should not replace those completely if you have the funding to use them. And then the last one, do not use it vaguely. The better the input, the better the output. So be specific on what you're looking for. And then if you don't know what you're looking for, just do some research on a new chat and just be like, I'm a small business owner. What should I be looking for in my financials? What insights should I be looking for? What can I do? And just use it as a teaching tool too. That's one of the most effective use cases with AI is it speeds up learning to a significant degree. So a simple guideline to keep in mind, use AI for explaining, summarizing, spotting patterns, generating questions, comparing scenarios, and creating owner meeting agendas or other output that you can take action on. Avoid using it for final tax decisions, final bookkeeping corrections, private data handling without review, loan or investment decisions, payroll or legal compliance, anything where a confident answer would be expensive. So, in conclusion, AI can absolutely help small businesses understand financials faster, but the safe version is not let AI run your financials. The safe version is clean the data, remove private details, ask a specific question, and use the answers to create a better human review. Use it as a support tool. But that's it for this video. If you guys like the content and want to see more content similar to this for small businesses, then please like and then subscribe.